Oh yeah.
that?
Okay. Yeah, the question of creating decentralized, sustainable micro industries is something that's very interesting to me right now, and something I have been putting a lot of thought and interest in lately. And it's such a tricky thing, you know, because especially in a lot of radical cultures, people have such knee-jerk, the question of money comes up and people have these knee-jerk reactions to it, like, oh, any money-making, any income earning, any profit-making is bad, inherently bad, and people aren't able to separate small-scale, micro-industry, cooperatively run businesses from capitalism as a whole. They can't make the distinction between the two of them. But, you know, people adhere to such like this ideological line of purity about that sort of thing, which is really unfortunate because it makes it difficult to have conversations about money and if people are like that. And we need to be real about the fact that we live in a capitalist economy. It's not going away tomorrow, you know, and we can pretend like it is and we can sort of imagine these anarcho-utopian visions, but that's not the reality of the situation. And really, if we're going to survive, if we're going to break free of the perpetual cycle of work, rent, debt, you know, that so many people are stuck in, we're going to need to have some conversations about money. And that goes into a murky territory where it crosses over with capitalism and broader economic issues. And a lot of people want to just remain in this pure territory where they're working this crappy job and they hate their boss and they're grumbling about it, but they can claim to be amazing anarchists. And it's just, yeah, we really need to move beyond that, you know? Yes, capitalism is an inherently flawed system based on the need for infinite growth and expansion in a world of finite resources that causes the exploitation of people all over the planet. Yes, that's all clear and out in the open. But we need to have systems where we're working both outside of and inside of the broader capital economic system to construct this world that we want to live in. You know, it's going to have to happen slowly and incrementally, and we're going to have to create this more sustainable sphere of economic activity. We need to be able to talk about economics. Economics doesn't have to be a dirty word the way it is for so many people. I've been interested in this concept of solidarity economics, which is something a lot of people are talking about lately, about looking at exactly that question of, you know, that includes everything from micro lending to community loan funds to cooperatively run businesses, establishing land trusts, looking at those things and being honest about the fact that there's not necessarily clear answers to everything. But yeah, I mean, the question of did we come up with any models for economic systems where we could be earning income so we weren't having to work outside jobs? Yeah, it's something I did start to think a lot about. And in a city, it's not something that there's quite as much pressure to think about because, I mean, one of the huge draws for people moving to the cities is that you can find work. It's easy to get. There's jobs, well, not always easy to get, obviously, but there's at least work available, whilst when you're in a rural location, a lot of times there's no jobs. And people would have to drive many, many miles to even find a place to be able to work. In a city, there's jobs available. But I was definitely interested in micro-industries and income-earning potential of the space, which was enormous, and we barely even tapped. I mean, initially it just began with having benefits and parties and fundraisers. We had a big space. We had a location where we could actually get away with that. Yeah, we had some parties where we earned a fair amount of money. But it was pretty taxing on everybody who lives there to have these huge, crazy parties that the place ends up getting trashed. We got to clean it up. Sort of the psychic disturbance that it makes it just sort of wears you down. And it's not something you can get away with all the time because sooner or later, if you start having parties all the time, sooner or later somebody's going to figure it out. And somebody who's actually a legitimate venue who has to be permitted and paying whatever fees to operate that way is going to be mad about it, and they're going to rat you out, or they're going to want their slice of the pie somehow or the other. So we need to be careful about the frequency at which we would have those kinds of money-earning parties. Small-scale fundraisers were a different thing for different organizations and benefits that we could get away with for the most part. Well, I started teaching workshops. The first one was in 2006. We started teaching a workshop called Rust, the Radical Urban Sustainability Training. And the idea was to use the building itself as a teaching model, which was a huge part of my intention in creating that space, that this building could be a teacher. We have these demonstrations of sustainable technologies on site. People could come there, interact with them, and learn from them, put their hands on them and see how they actually work. And we could have a lecture component indoors, go outside and look at things, see how they work. You know, so important as part of learning to when you hear about something, to then be able to go and see it, and then even better to actually do it, to actually make it. These were really successful. We would have, pretty much every class would fill, we'd have like 50 or 60 people per class come from all over the US, from other countries, to attend these workshops. Yeah, we were actually able to earn some income with that we could then use to, some would go towards the Rhizome and could help the other organizations that were working out of there as well. So that was one step in that direction. I think that, yeah, out of all the different things that we tried, education was one of the most lucrative micro-industries there are. Particularly because a lot of people just knew about Rhizome. They wanted to come see it. They wanted to come to Austin too, which was another big appeal. Having these workshops in March, you got a lot of people from New York City who just wanted to take a break from, come down in the spring. You know, and then we tried to incorporate ethics into this as well, having work trade options for people to do partial work trade and to have a discount on the price of the course. And we also had scholarships for people of color. You know, it definitely tied in with our broader purpose of getting information out there and trying to get information into communities where other people may be more effective in being related to people in those communities culturally than we would be. Is definitely part of our broader mission. We made a real good try. This is an interesting story of the second to last year we were there, of having a composting operation on our brownfield property, the property that was donated to us. We tried to get a business going called Soil Cyclers, where we were trying to get paid to pick up the food waste from local businesses and restaurants, bring it to the brownfield property and compost it. The brownfield property was perfect for that. It was this big open space that needed a lot of compost. The soil quality was poor, so we needed a lot of compost there. We had the space. Could easily just take food waste and turn it into dirt, and we wanted to pick it up with bicycles, with trailers. We had a whole list of businesses that supposedly were interested in actually paying to have this service that was given to us by Ecology Action, which is actually a really cool, cooperatively run recycling business in Austin that recycles, you know, cardboard, plastics, conventional materials, and not well set up to do composting. And so, and the city had also been talking a lot about zero waste initiatives, and you really wanted to go towards this zero waste goal. We set the business up. We you know, got a bike cart, had the space, had a whole plan, contracts all set up. Went and talked to all these businesses. Initially, they're really excited, and then ultimately, with every single one of them, when they realized they'd actually have to be paying for the service, they backed out. They didn't want to do it. They, you know, when they're having to pay for disposal fees as it is for their trash. They don't want to have to pay for an additional fee for having their compost taken away when it's not mandated, when they don't legally have to. So I think this sort of business would work in a place if there were actually laws that required it, which in some cities there are. In Portland, San Francisco, Toronto, I don't know if they're necessarily laws, but I know that they do have municipal compost pickup. And that's a pretty new concept, and a lot of places are nervous about implementing it. But I mean, it's I think going to be really necessary, and it would be great if it could be decentralized, where it wasn't just handled by one municipal service that went around and picked it up and take it to one place to compost it. There's a great example of this in Northampton, Massachusetts, an organization called Pedal People that goes around and mostly does trash pickup on bicycles. Because they do not have municipal trash service in that town, they can actually compete with other private industries that are using garbage trucks to haul away garbage, and they have a successfully running cooperative business of people picking up garbage on bicycles and recycling. And they do composting as well, but that's sort of like a thing on the side. They don't really make any money off the composting. It's mostly just from trash hauling. When I think of sustainable micro-industries, they're one of the best things that comes to mind. Of course, I would think it would only really work in a city that did not have municipal trash pickup. So, yeah, I guess then the answer, the best thing that we've come up with, most lucrative micro-industry that we've come up with is education.